You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. So I stumbled across a piece earlier today at ESPN.com, and it was grading the transfer portal season for all of the way too early top 25 for next college football season. So naturally, I scroll down to LSU, who they have 8th in the way too early top 25 for next season, which I think is appropriate. We've talked about that a lot. I think LSU and Florida State are going to meet next year in Orlando as a preseason top 10 team. And, for LSU and whatever their opportunities are going to be, to be a national title contender next year, they are, again, LSU's got the 5th best odds. It's early, and rosters are going to change between now and the start of next season, but LSU's got the 5th best odds to win the national championship next year. So they are a preseason contender. So you have to have these types of conversations. So LSU 8th in the way too early top 25. They rank LSU's biggest departure as Walker Howard. The biggest newcomer, they mention Aaron Anderson and J.K. Johnson. I'm going to touch on that because I'm not so sure that I agree. Remaining holes, they mention the defensive line as the remaining holes. And Tom Van Haren gave LSU a B+. Essentially said it would have been higher, but losing Walker Howard knocks you down a peg. But still a B+, which I think is very solid, probably a fair grade. But I'm not so sure I agree with any of the assessments there. If you look at LSU's transfer portal class, Tigers had 17 players leave LSU and 11 players come in. And I think the way that I would think of it is, or the way that I would grade it, and you can put a grade, a letter grade, however you want, but I would say, did you address your needs with starting caliber players? Not project players, starting caliber players. Because that's the purpose of the portal, isn't it? The fact that if you're LSU a year ago and you lose Elias Ricks and Dwight McGlothern to the portal and Cordell Flott goes pro and you have no cornerbacks, no worries. Go get Jark Bernard-Converse, a 4-year starter at Oklahoma State who was all Big 12, right? Like, that's the point of the portal. Go get a starting caliber player. You need offensive linemen? Cool. Miles Frazier, freshman All-American. Tremont Shorts, FCS All-American. Boom. Now, it's not to say every player is going to pan out, but you're supplementing your roster with starting caliber players. That's the point of the portal right now. So I looked at LSU and looked at the roster and said, okay, well, where did you need help? Well, you certainly needed a deep threat wide receiver. We knew that, a deep threat wide receiver and a guy that could help you in special teams in the return game. Boom. First guy they added was Aaron Anderson. That was a no-brainer, a guy that's a former 5-star. Brian Kelly's talked about wanting guys from Louisiana. He was a one-time LSU commit. When Ogeron got fired, he decommitted, ended up signing with Bama. That's a home run. Now, we'll see if it pans out on the field, but as far as checking the boxes of what you were looking for, Aaron Anderson's a no-doubter. Cornerback was the other massive spot, I think, that they needed help because you got a whole bunch of one-year guys last year. Mekhi Gardner, Jark Bernard-Converse, Colby Richardson, dudes at one-and-done dudes, okay? So you had to remake your cornerback room again, especially after losing Demarius McGee and Raydarius Jones. So you had to remake it again, and you did so with elite talent, all with more than a year of eligibility. The fact that you went out and you got Denver Harris, who was a 5-star. You got Deuce Chestnut, who was all ACC at Syracuse. You add J.K. Johnson, who's a starter at Ohio State. That's not even counting Zy Alexander, who was an FCS All-American. Again, guy from Louisiana, 6'3", long corner, exactly what you're looking for in a cornerback. So check the box there. You needed, maybe the biggest portal need was you had to address defensive line. We all know that we talked about it all year. They basically had a 3-man rotation on the interior. It was Mekhi Wingo, Jaquelin Roy, Jacobian Guillory. That was basically it. They got creative. Sometimes they moved Ali Gay inside, but you basically had 3 true defensive tackles as part of your rotation. You had to go get bodies. Jordan Jefferson from West Virginia, starting caliber player. Paris Shand from Arizona, 3-year player there. Jalen Lee, Louisiana guy from Florida, again, a 330-pound dude who's going to be a big run stuffer in the middle. So, again, you addressed what you needed on the interior. We talked about Jack linebacker. B.J. Ojulari goes pro. You're expecting Harold Perkins to be an inside backer. Desmond Little leaves in the transfer portal as well. You need Jack linebackers. Xavier Carter transfers out. You need Jack linebackers. You need edge players. Well, they go get Braden Swinson, a 3-year player at Oregon, and then Ovi Agofu, who's going to be a 6th-year guy who Brian Kelly had at Notre Dame, super productive, was the Big 12 Newcomer of the Year a season ago. So, emphatic, check. They're checking all the boxes. The one spot where I would say when you lose DeMario Tolan, you lose Colby Fields, you lose Micah Baskerville, when you lost all of these inside linebackers, Mike Jones goes pro, you were super thin at linebacker. You had, I would have said, and I was prepping this, like actually today when I was prepping, I put 2 needs. One was inside linebacker and the other is on the offensive line, because now we know you've lost 5 offensive linemen. You're going to need to supplement there, and they'll have an opportunity to do that later. But linebacker, they addressed, and we got that news today. Omar Spates, who was, I mean, not only a starter, but an all Pac-12 inside linebacker at Oregon State, has transferred to LSU and is going to be going through spring and is on campus now at LSU. 6'1", 227, played 4 years at Oregon State. The COVID year obviously doesn't count for him, so he's got 2 more years remaining at LSU if he wants to play. You know, as a recruit, he was, he's from the state of Oregon. He was the number 72 inside linebacker in the country. So a 3-star player who went to Oregon and became a 4-year player and a 2-year starter, a team captain, and a year ago had a very productive season when he became all Big 12. All Pac-12. So you're talking about a team captain, all Pac-12, inside linebacker, even if he doesn't become a starter. If your starters are Greg Penn, Harold Perkins, if the third guy, the rotational guy who a year ago we thought would have been DeMario Tolan, or a month ago we thought that would have been DeMario Tolan, well now instead of a 2nd-year player in DeMario Tolan, it's a 5th-year guy who's got major FBS experience, who's been a starter in all conference, like, check, right? You've checked that box now at linebacker. You could probably use another body, but you've certainly checked that box. And I would tell you the only thing they have remaining that they have to address would be on the offensive line, which is something we discussed, right? With 4 guys entering the portal on the, 5 players entering the portal on the offensive line, and with 1 player going pro, and Anthony Bradford declaring for the draft. You've got 6 guys that you like on the offensive line that can play, that have played, and then everybody after that has no experience. I get it. You got to get experience at some point, but you're going to need another couple of bodies that have played at this level before, and I think that's something they'll try to address in the next portal window. But keep an eye on offensive line. I would say that's the only spot. That's the only spot on this roster where I go, man, you're an injury away from being in a sticky spot. Everywhere else, they've got depth, they've got talent, they've got starting caliber players, they've got experience. LSU is a legit contender in 2023. On paper, they got to go play it out, and you're going to have to play an SEC schedule and all that stuff. But, I'll point out again, someone asked me today, do you think LSU, a 10-win season next year, is realistic? Well, just play it out this year. You replace Tennessee as your rotating cross-divisional. You replace Tennessee with Missouri. That's an inherently winnable game going up to Como. Yes, you have to go to Alabama, but the game you lost at Texas A&M, now you get in Baton Rouge where you're going to be favored. Those 2 games right there where you lost Tennessee and Texas A&M, I think those 2 games flip in your favor. Now maybe Bama flips in their favor since you have to go to Tuscaloosa, but I also believe LSU will likely be favored against Florida State. So I think you could be just there on paper alone, you're 2 games better than you were a year ago. Even if you lose at Bama, but you beat, you win the A&M game at home, you're able to beat Florida State, you beat Mizzou where you lost to Tennessee. That's a net plus of 2 games. That's 11 wins. You're in the mix. You are in the mix next year on paper. Now they got to go deliver and execute and grow and develop all that stuff, but boy, there's a lot of reasons to to be very optimistic about this LSU team. And the portal season they just had is a big reason. Brian Kelly and his staff have clearly shown they are adept at roster evaluation and maintaining this roster and knowing where their needs are and addressing them. I think they had a very, very successful portal season, which is going to make this team even more hyped going into this offseason and then into 2023.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.